Dive into looks like it's over for the Mag 7 stocks. Now, this is something I found very interesting. The name Magnificent Seven, I actually thought Jim Cramer somebody named it. That is not the case. It came out in 2023 by a strategist from Bank of America named Michael Harnett. The idea is the name came from a classic Western movie featuring seven heroic gunfighters and their push to save a small town. That's where that name came from. I always wondered that. But just like other hot themes, like remember the Nifty 50 back in the 60s, BRIC, which is BRIC, we had to be invested in the emerging markets of Brazil, Russia, India, and China. Well, it looks like the Mag 7 days or glory days are getting over, just like it happened with the Nifty 50, the BRIC, and there's a couple other ones as well.
.com, we always talk about that one, but I mean, I don't want to say everybody. Most people know .com. A lot of people don't maybe remember Nifty 50 because, I mean, shoot, that was in the 70s. So, you know, even people that were investing back then and alive today, I mean, you'd have to be pushing 90 to actually had a substantial amount of investments back at that time. But I was going to say, you know, you talk about where Mag 7 came from. We've talked about this before, but do you remember how many of the Magnificent Seven survived in the movie?
No, I didn't know that.
Just 3 of the 7 gunfighters survived. So will we see a similar case? Now, I think it's a little bit different because I don't think any of the Mag 7 are going bankrupt, but you know, the performance, I think, is the big question there. Will there be 3 survivors that maybe win the AI game?
I think there'll be survivors, but I think they could be very heavily wounded.
Well, we're kind of looking here at the numbers, and in 2025, only 2 companies, Alphabet and NVIDIA, outperformed the S&P 500. I think a lot of people were surprised, obviously, at the way things transpired for Alphabet, but they were the big winner, actually, of the Mag 7. I bet you at the beginning of the year, most people would not have picked Alphabet to be the top dog there, but they were. Microsoft, Meta, Apple, Amazon, and Tesla were no longer called stock market stars, and I believe this year will be another year of underperformance for most of these players. The Mag 7, well, they still account for about 36% of the S&P 500's market cap, which is why I do believe the S&P 500 will not have a great year in 2026. I don't know if we'll have a down year for the S&P 500, but I think the returns are going to be subdued, and definitely don't expect the returns that we've seen the last 3 years, I think, to repeat itself of close to 20% gains.
And the thing is, accounting for 36% of the S&P 500, if they don't do well, that's a third, over a third of the S&P 500. It's very hard to do well, especially the size of the market cap of those companies. That's why it's such a big part of the S&P 500.
Well, I mean, we'll get some good insight next week. I believe it's Microsoft, Meta, I think Tesla's in there as well, and Apple. I believe those 4 companies report Wednesday or Thursday of next week.
You know, I forgot what show I was watching, but they said, do you know anybody that uses Copilot from Microsoft? They go, no, we don't.
Well, I think everybody has it on their computer, but do they actually utilize it? Yeah, I mean, we could use it. Yeah, I think the button pops up there.
But we don't pay for it, I guess. Maybe that's
no. I think they lump it in. And I do wonder how much of the data is massaged. Like, yeah, there's 10 million users of Copilot, but it's just people that have it on the computer, maybe not actively using it. I don't know the exact details because we don't own Microsoft, so I don't know the exact numbers behind their AI success, or I'm going to say lack of success, because I know some people have really pointed out that. I'll use Mark Benioff as the prime example at Salesforce. He's called it Clippy, I think, 2.0. You know, the little the little clip that came from Microsoft. I guess we'll see. I mean, if we get more data from Microsoft next week on how Copilot and their AI strategy is working out.
And they are kind of saying as well that they do expect that these companies, this is a year, because they've been developing, this is the year you actually have to perform. Yep. So, yeah. But it will be hard for investors to give up these companies because as they look in the rearview mirror, they feel, wow, this company is great. I made a lot of money off it. It's worth what it's trading at because, again, they made very good returns in the past. And that's no way to do investing. However, just like the Nifty 50 and other hot investment themes throughout history, everything comes back to the mean, comes back to the average. Nothing stays on the top forever. It eventually comes back down to the normal area.
Yeah, and the big problem I see is a lot of times when people make a lot of money investing, well, then the next question becomes, what will the next hot investment idea be? And frankly, no one knows for sure, but I'm confident someone on Wall Street will come up with some exciting name for investors to chase, and then they'll tell them not to worry about the fundamentals of the business. And we know short term, I'm going to say fundamentals don't matter. I mean, they don't. Your guess is as good as mine as what's going to happen in the stock market tomorrow, next week, next month. But long term, as Benjamin Graham said, it's a weighing machine. The fundamentals do weigh out in the long term. And I don't want to say the Mag 7 are bad companies, but I pick on Apple a lot. Trades at 30 times earnings with limited growth. Why the heck does that happen? It just doesn't make much sense. And I think, it's funny, again, picking on Apple more detail. At first, it was like, well, they don't have an AI strategy, so they were punished. Well, now they're going to have a good AI strategy because they don't really have an AI strategy. You're like, what the heck does that mean? Like, it just is crazy the things that people will justify with some of these Mag 7 companies. And as you said, I think 2026 is maybe finally going to be that show me year,
Right.
not the hype anymore. What's the saying? The proof is in the pudding.
Proof is in the pudding.
Well, I want to see that
Show
pudding.
me the money.
Yeah.
Show me the money.
I want to see the pudding. Yeah.
And also, I mean, Apple last year, I mean, again, picking on them a little bit, but congratulations, we said before, for recovering from the down period that they had. But still, your return last year on Apple, I think, was only like 7%. It wasn't a great gain. It didn't even come close to the S&P 500.
Yeah, I mean, the 1 year return, obviously, now that's January 23rd of last year through January 23rd of this year. It's 11%.
1%.
And that includes their big dividend of 0.5%.
Yeah. Still, not worth trading 30 times earnings. With a
Oh, and
company
I know
1%.
Microsoft, I think, was even worse. I think their 1 year return is 4%, and that's after a 3% gain on Friday. So I mean, realistically, it was up about 1%.
Yeah, they are struggling. That's why we're kind of talking about that. But